name is Keith Welsh. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about my own limiting beliefs, maybe not specifically what they are, but how having them has affected me and affected relationships. And I'm going to eat crow, an acai bowl of crow. But first, go to theinfinitesparkofbeing.com if you would like to continue to support this. I appreciate it so much. You guys have been very kind to me. And it helps. So, I'll just tell the story how it is. So, I was seeing somebody, and I ended it very abruptly. And I ended it very abruptly. I perceived something a certain way, and due to my own limiting beliefs and whatnot, let's leave that out. Forget that I said that. Okay. So I perceived something, and then I ended it abruptly, and it was out of fear. Like, I was scared. I was like, well, this is not going to be good. This person is going to hurt you. So there's this great book that I can't remember the name of, and I think the author's name's Jeffrey Young, and it's on schema-focused therapy. Long story short, you take a thing called a life traps test, and my life trap is abandonment with a fear of loss, and what it manifests as is that, and I'm a very solitary kind of person, which is fine, but a lot of the times it's like, look, I don't want to connect, because if I do, you can disconnect me, and that pain is going to be so bad, I don't want to experience it, so I'd rather just not even go there. Which is, what happened. I was seeing this person, and there was the fear of the disconnection, or at least the opportunity that I could get really hurt, and so I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, fast forward some time, and she reached out, and I reached out, and I said, hey, I'm sorry that I did that so abruptly and so harshly. I don't remember exactly what I said, something to that effect. And I'm saying that because I know she listens to this, and I need to watch what I say apparently now. So we start spending some time together, and she says, hey, can I give you, I can't remember what I was talking about, but she goes, can I give you some feedback? And she works in human resources. And I was like, well, it sounded like a very human resourcey thing to say. I was like, sure. Because honestly, I am always open to feedback. I'm not interested in not getting better at being Keith. I want to get better at being Keith, and so feedback is important. I learned that as a designer in a lot of different aspects of my life, that taking critique, constructive criticism, is always helpful. So I said, all right. And she goes, you have a lot of limiting beliefs. I'm like, yeah, I absolutely do. And so we begin talking, and part of the reason that I perceived what I perceived, and to be fair, like, it was cause for at least a discussion, but hold on a second, I'm going over some kind of crazy thing. I probably didn't need to respond the way that I did. I probably could have been a little more careful, or thoughtful. I don't know. But the reason I got scared was due to my own limiting beliefs about me and who I am and what I am and all that. And anyway, we're sitting at her counter fairly recently at her house, and I go, I gotta ask you. It's you like me and I like you, but I gotta know, like, what are you doing? Like, and now here's the thing, and I'm asking her that because she makes a lot of money, she's extremely attractive, and, all of that. And me even asking the question says so much about my own limiting beliefs. And her response was, she goes, "You're funny, you're fun to hang out with, and I think you're a really good guy." And what's fucked up is that I was like, oh, okay, which was a nice thing to hear. But then there's a piece of me that was like, that's not enough. And now we're into my own shit. Why isn't that enough? And there's a lot of reasons. And I want to be very clear that if it sounds like I'm making excuses, I'm not giving excuses. I'm just telling, these are the reasons, right? And it goes to consciousness. The way we think is based on our consciousness, what's included in that decision-making apparatus in the mind, like how the mind is speaking. And so anyway, but that happened at her counter, which was very interesting. But then we're talking, and this was a couple days, yesterday, the day before, and she says, I'd also like to talk about something else. She goes, you talk a lot of shit about people that do yoga on your podcast. And I remember an episode where you talked shit about people that drive Porsches. Fun fact, she drives a Porsche and she does hot yoga. And here we are. I am taking life advice from a very beautiful woman that does hot yoga and drives a Porsche. And here we are. This is how life just kind of happens. And I know her well enough to know that I need to take the advice, because she's no dummy. She's very, very intelligent. And what's wild is that when I look at her, the things that I think or thought about her say more about me than they do her. Because, again, the reason I got scared in the first place, and the reason I heard, or that my mind was like, that's not enough, when she said these things, it's all about me. And it sounds like very trite, and we've all heard it a million times, that what we see in other people is more about what we see in ourselves or don't see. Like the things you don't like about somebody are the things you don't like about yourself, which, okay, sometimes. But like, it goes deeper than that. And that's our karma. And me, here, okay, now this is a very subtle thing. When I pulled back from her so abruptly, due to my perception, which is more about how I see myself, me pulling back based on that perception reinforced everything in my subconscious that keeps that perception of myself, that shitty way of thinking, it keeps that alive. Because for the simple fact, I acted as if it was true. And then I've done that my whole life with different things and continue to experience the world that way, and there's my karma. That's it. There's layers to karma. But I keep experiencing this limiting belief system about myself because I keep acting as if it's true. And in some aspects of my life, I've defeated it, and I believe that I've done really well. But then there's other places in my life where I have not done very well, and I've really let it rot. And that's a great example of it. And so now, like, even talking to her now, I use that little tool, hey, when you said this, I heard this. And when I say that, it's because what I'm hearing is more about me than it is what they're saying, right? It's that kind of thing, man. And it's I have to watch it. I have to watch it because that limiting belief could have kept me from entering into this relationship with this person. And I think that a lot of the work we do karmically is with other people, friends, romance, family, things like that. But I just found it very interesting. And now there's all these other places in my life that I want to look at, like my perception of something. Okay, what does it say about me? And what's really fucked up is I say this shit to clients all day. In fact, on Saturdays, I do it for 3 hours. But sometimes you're so close to your own shit that you got no perspective. And sometimes that's a Zen saying, right? That a leaf falls at the right moment, you wake up. The wrong moment, a whole tree full of leaves falls in your head and you'd stay asleep. So it truly is a case of the requisite stimuli created the process in my mind that would allow me to notice these things and to see those kinds of things, which is really great. But yeah, I think it's, we had a really good laugh about the fact that she does hot yoga and drives a Porsche. We had a really good laugh about it. She's like, you talk a lot of shit. I was like, yeah, sometimes I do that. And I think that, and to correct it in case I've ever upset anybody about it, it's just that, like, I have a lot of gripes, a lot of gripes with, like, I think that, I think maybe it's down here. Like, really, I've only experienced it in South Florida, just because that's where I live. And it's got a whole weird, like one time, I have to be careful what I say. I was designing something for a yoga school down here. And I put a picture of Patanjali on it, or at least an artist's description of Patanjali. And there weren't cameras. And she goes, can we take the snake guy off of it? That gives me the creeps. It's like, all right. It's that kind of shit. It's like, you're only getting like an eighth of the story. How, like, they do the mindfulness studies with Mingo Rinpoche and Matthew Richard, and they obviously were doing shamatha. And the second everybody finds out that meditation changes the biology of the brain, they're like, we need an app. We're going to do guided meditations. And every meditation teacher worth their salt will tell you, no, don't listen to music when you do meditation. Don't just breathe. It's not about having a transcendental experience. It's about training the mind. Yeah. So I'm really going to work on that. I stand by my belief that there is a yoga flea market that occurs down here. I can't use the name of it, but I see it and I'm like, it's a fucking yoga flea market. That's what it is. What's really wild, yoga meaning to yoke, to come into union with God or truth or whatever. The reality is that sometimes Krishna shows up as a really hot woman that does hot yoga and drives a Porsche. And sometimes that's God. Or goddess, whatever. I think that's fun, though. There's something fun to me when I get called out like that. I don't know why I enjoy it so much. I just do. I think it's fun. Maybe it's because, in order to... So I was going to say, because I'm a big dummy. No, it's not that. I'm not a dummy. It's because I care about truth. I care about expanding my consciousness, learning more, refining my nervous system. I want yoga. Not doing a forward fold yoga. I'm talking about yoga in the sense of the word yoga, not hatha yoga or any of that. But yeah, as in the way of karma yoga, coming into union with God through day-to-day experience, through selfless service, through service to others without attachment to outcome. When you're doing that, you're engaged in bhakti yoga. You're engaged in devotional yoga, because if it's all God, like this whole thing, it's all God manifesting as this experience, then it is bhakti to try to experience it, to accept criticism, things like that. But these limiting beliefs about myself, I can see where they come from. I can see that, obviously I took birth into, with my parents. I don't really get too mystical on here. I don't think I do anyway. I probably do. I have no idea. But my belief is that, my consciousness, my subtle body with Atman took birth with these two people through the gateway of their sexual intercourse. That gateway vibrationally, because that appealed to my karma. Which is, and then to say that now, my parents' philosophy on life was that you want more, work harder. One job's not enough, get 6. My mom, that my dad's philosophy was that people are no damn good, follow the money, it's all a corrupt system, da-da-da-da-da. And then, being exposed to punk rock and getting involved in that, coupled with that kind of consciousness, and then, so now I have these limiting beliefs about myself in this system, and that the system is, against me, and that it's, when I break it down like that, it's all so gross. Ugh. But yeah, that's the deal. Yeah, it makes sense that I would be that way. I get it. I'm gonna leave it at that. Go to theinfinitesparkofbeing.com if you'd like to continue to support this effort. I'm so grateful. You guys are so kind to me. The Patreon and Venmo and yeah. Also, if you're interested in any sort of in that trauma work that I do, it's not just specifically for traumatic experience, but ruminating thought, intrusive thinking, stuff like that. I'm going to start seeing people through FaceTime or Zoom or whatever. I saw one of you recently. You're probably listening. I'm glad it went well. Yeah, but I do that on a sliding scale, so don't worry about money. We'll figure something out. I love you. You used to remind me, and now I'm here to remind you. And yeah. All right, I love you. Bye-bye.